Okay, welcome back. This is going to be part two of the Symbaroum core rulebook. So we're going to look at the player's guide portion, and we'll probably finish it up in part three. So this time about creating your character. Your character have a goal, of course. The group should have a goal. And then we have archetypes. So in this game, you have an archetype, and basically it's just something to give you an idea of how to build your character. You can build your character however you want. Now, in the advanced guide, there are some skills that only certain archetypes can buy, so you should select an archetype. And also for the advanced guide, there are certain character classes that are written in stone as to where you have to buy these skills for it. But later, you can get other skills still. So your attributes are 8: accurate, cunning, discreet, persuasive, quick, resolute, strong, and vigilant. Okay. So there's two different ways to do it. You can distribute values among the stats, or you do a point buy, which is how I build the character. You distribute 80 points among the 8 attributes. One attribute can be 15. The others have to be between 5 and 14. So you make your character with attributes between 5 and 14. And if you wish, you can have one stat as high as 15. I love the art in this game. Okay, you choose a character race, and you get traits according to your race. There's abilities, and there's boons and burdens. So let's go and look at archetypes. The 3 main types are warrior, mystic, and rogue. So, this is giving you an idea, different warrior abilities you could get, and you could be like a berserker, a duelist. I mean, you don't have to buy these specific abilities, but it's just saying the important attributes, suggested race. You could be any race. Appropriate abilities, acrobatics, feint, man at arms, twin attack. But you could do your duelist however you want. And also, there's other abilities in the advanced book that you could get that relate to it. So you don't have to get those specific abilities. The captain, the cell sword, a mercenary. But you could do a spell sword build in this game. You could do somebody who has spells and who has sword ability for the knight. The mystic. So mystics choose a school of magic, and what they do is they buy, I'll show you abilities. They buy a school of magic skill, and then when they buy spells that are under that school of magic, you use them and you suffer what's called temporary corruption, and you heal from it. But you can also buy a skill to where you can buy any spell. You're what's called self-taught. But when you use spells, you suffer permanent corruption. So the corruption, we'll talk about that later too, it can damage you. So here's archetypes like witch, sorcerer, the theurg, a cleric, a wizard, And then there are rogue archetypes. Treasure hunters, pathfinders, thugs, diplomats, swindlers, innkeepers, and spies. All of them rogues. So a charlatan. You've chosen the social arena as your battlefield. There your quick tongue is your sharpest weapon, and your confidence-inspiring eyes your best shield. If these should fail, then you had better trust in your light weapon, the sneaky moves. So here's someone who could be like a salesman, a merchant, or a gambler. And there's the witch hunter. A thug. Treasure hunter. But you can build your character any way you want. Ranger. Rangers are under rogues like that. Okay, so the attributes. There's accurate. A character's hand-eye coordination, precision, and timing are all represented by the accurate. But in this game, you could get certain weapon skills, like buy a skill, buy an ability, that will have your weapon use another stat for combat instead of accurate. Accurate's your basic stat for melee and ranged. Okay? So accurate is in most cases opposed by an enemy's quick. So in this game, you use stat versus stats. In combat, you roll to hit. If you hit, you roll damage. Then, however many times you're struck at, you roll a defense roll for each time you're attacked. And if you're successfully not hit, if you fail, then the game master rolls the damage. So they let you roll more in this game. And cunning. Cunning actually represents the character's wit and knowledge. It's common sense as well as actual schooling and education. You usually has cunning when trying to remember facts, when solving a logical problem or puzzle, or when doing research in a library. Cunning is usually tested in a specific level of difficulty decided by the game master. Discreet. A player character's role, a player character's value in discreet mirrors its aptitude for training and being silent, agile, and well discreet. So it's stealth, hide in the shadows and move silent. You use one roll for it in this game. This attribute can be used to avoid being detected, to hide or smuggle something, to shadow someone, or to steal something out of a person's pocket. Discreet is often opposed by an enemy's vigilant. So if you're sneaking up on someone, use your discreet against their vigilant. If someone's sneaking up on you, use your vigilant against their discreet, and you roll. If you fail, you don't notice them. If you're successful, you notice them. So that's another way the game lets you roll more instead of the game master roll. You get to roll when you're sneaking up on someone or if you're being sneaked up on. Persuasive. Okay. We're thinking charisma. Reflects how well a player character can influence others by use of words, voice, body language, and looks. The attribute is often used when trying to persuade another person to do or refrain from doing something, either verbally, in writing, or by song. Persuasive is usually opposed by an enemy's resolute. Quick. Represents a character's reflexes, balance, nimbleness, and how fleet-footed he or she is. It determines the order of initiative in combat and is used actively when jumping, avoiding harm, and performing similar acrobatic maneuvers. Quick is often opposed by an enemy's accurate. So this is what I was just talking about. The character sneaks up on a guard. Okay, it's discreet, backwards arrow, vigilant. So the enemy sneaks up on the character. It's vigilant, backwards arrow, discreet. Vigilant versus discreet. They like to use a backwards arrow instead of just saying versus. It's the same thing. All right, resolute. Represents a character's resistance to influence, whether it is social pressure, mind-bending magic, or corruption. Resolute is also tied to the use of mystical powers. The attribute is often opposed by either an enemy's resolute or persuasive. Note that having a very low value in this attribute is inadvisable because of the risks for corruption. Strong. Strong mirrors a character's capacity to use its physical strength in order to, for instance, lift something heavy, break down a door. It also covers the capacity to withstand physical damage and to resist poison and diseases. Strong is usually modified by a level of difficulty, sometimes by an enemy strong. Vigilant represents a character's general awareness, the attunement of its senses, and its ability to detect the details of its surroundings. Vigilant is often opposed by an enemy's discreet. All right, secondary attributes. Toughness is strong, though never below 10. So, strong attribute or 10, whichever higher is your toughness, which are your hit points. Pain threshold. Strong divided by 2, rounded up. Defense. Quickness minus your armor's impeding value. Corruption threshold is a resolute divided by 2, rounded up. Success tests are rolled on a die 20, and you want to get that number or lower. And over here we see the attributes. The values are 5 to 15. The modifiers for higher attributes are minuses because the attributes are used defensively. So the minuses are working in your favor, taking away from the other person's roll or your roll. Let me say it again. It's going to work in your favor because you want to roll low. And they're used defensively. Okay, player races. There's others in the advanced character book, but the basic ones are humans. And, basically, like we said before, there's the northern barbarians and the more civilized humans in the south. If you watch part 1, it's got some list of names and things for you. Changelings. That the elves sometimes steal a human child from its crib and place a changeling in its stead has been known amongst the barbarians for as long as the witches can remember. Since the arrival of the Ambrians, changelings have started to emerge among them as well. While a rare occurrence, it's still a traumatic experience for every family affected. So it's unknown why the elves do this. A changeling looks human during childhood and starts to develop more elf-like features in their adolescent years. And they added in the advanced player book, there is an abducted human that was raised by elves that you can play. So the changeling traits, they all have the long-lived traits. And most have the shapeshifter trait, which causes an ability. So that means you have to buy that trait if you want it. And if you're a player character, or you're basically going to look like this. You can't change shape unless you buy that ability. And then you could be an ogre. All ogres have the long-lived and pariah traits. In the advanced book, pariah has become a burden. There's what they call boons and burdens, and you select 1 or 2 for your character. And what you do is you get 1 boon, 1 burden. So if you're an ogre and you have pariah, then you automatically get a boon for that. So a boon is like an ability that you get without having to pay experience points for it. And then we have goblins. Little is known about the origin of the goblins, but their presence in the southern outskirts of Davokar is quite obvious. The tribe that left the darkness of Davokar to settle down close to Thistlehold swarms and makes such a racket that they have made themselves quite unpopular among the town's human populace. So they sound kind of like goblins in OSR. All right, traits. So traits. The chapter describes the different traits that representatives of the playable races either have or can have. Some of the traits only have one level and come automatically with a selection of race at no additional cost. Others function and cost as abilities, aside from the fact that they are tied to a certain race. Such a trait is optional, and the player decides whether or not to purchase it when creating the character. So you can purchase traits, but if they're tied to a certain race, you have to be that certain race. So contacts, you have contacts in certain organizations. Bushcraft, to survive in the wild. Long-lived. Pariah, we already talked about that. Pariah is no longer a trait. Privileged, you belong to high social standing, and gives you certain advantages and accesses. Robust. Wow, look at this. Love the art in this game. I think it's an ogre. It says down here robust. Yeah, he's robust. So shapeshifter, short-lived. Once again, short-lived, I believe, we're going to burden now. Survival instinct. And that's one of the ones with 3 levels. So abilities. I also refer to these as skills, just out of habit, but abilities or skills. And of course, traits too. Traits and abilities are both things that, if you don't get it, you can buy it. As to where a boon or a burden, I think you can buy a boon without getting a burden. And also, if you have a burden, you can buy out of it. We'll talk about that when we do the advanced book. Okay, all abilities are described using the same template. Active action. The ability is an attack or similar combat action. Free action. The action may be used an unlimited number of times per turn, in addition to a character's usual 2 actions. So you get 2 active actions per melee round. Passive action. Ability does not require a combat action to be activated. Reaction. It's a reaction to some other action. It does count against 2 actions. Special action. The ability works in a special way, detailed in its description. So here, we have backstab and thief. Certainly thought of as anyone can get it, but it's thought of as a rogue ability. Acrobatics, alchemy. You can make potions and things. Beast lore, berserker. Equestrian, so it's horse riding skills. Feint. So Iron Fist, that's going to be like a... Let's see, the character is trained to use its strength for maximum effect on a target in melee combat. Knights, members of the Barbarian Wraith Guard, and other heavily armed warriors rely on strength in combat and leave precision and finesse for others to worry about. Okay, so that means if you're like a brawler, like a knight kind of character, you would want an ability like this, but there are precision and finesse abilities, which it sounds to me like if you're going to get this ability, you wouldn't be able to get a precision and finesse ability. So passive at novice level, these abilities mostly have 3 levels: novice, adept, and master. The character can fully utilize its strength and therefore use strong instead of accurate when making melee attacks. So that's what I was talking about before. You can get a skill to where you use something else. You get this skill, you can use your strength for your melee attacks. And then you get adept, you get a damage bonus for melee, 1 die 4. And then once you become master, you get a plus 1 die 8 on your melee attacks. So definitely this is something like a knight or a paladin would have, because you're not worried about, that's only for melee, you're not worried about archery combat. Exceptional attribute, now this is something everyone will be interested in for any character. All the character's senses, as well as physical and mental capacity, can be improved by practicing a little bit each day. The muscles grow stronger, the eyes sharper, and intellect vaster. This ability enhances the character's basic survival capability. This ability may be chosen multiple times, each time related to a different attribute. So you increase an attribute by +1, then you increase it by +2, and then you increase it by +3. And each time it applies to a different attribute. Okay. So you can increase 3 of your attributes non-magically. So here it has the abilities, and on the right it says common for certain archetypes, but it doesn't say, it says common for. It doesn't say restricted, it doesn't say you can't buy it. Now in the advanced book, some of the abilities are like that. Man in arm, medicus, give first aid, marksman, mystical area, poisoner, for you want to do an assassin kind of character. Polearm mastery, if you want to get with pole arms. Okay, so ritualist, that's to do ritual spells. There's like spells that you cast, and then there's ritual kind of spells. Shield fighter, sixth sense, steadfast. So sorcery. Now here's a good example. If you want to use sorcery spells and not get permanent corruption, to get sorcery at novice level, and then you can buy spells at novice level. You can even buy them at adept level, but you can use them at novice level. Once you buy adept, then you can use it at adept level without risk of permanent corruption. You can use it. You could use an adept spell, but you risk permanent corruption. But you can only buy spells from the school of sorcery. Okay. Let's see, witchcraft, wizardry, and other schools of magic. And then we have mystical traditions. Okay. So, part 3, I'm going to go over the mystical traditions and some things about combat, things like that.